Today, as part of our Business Spotlight program, I'm with Kate Popova. She's a co-founder and CEO of Everywhere English, and they're based in Cork. So over to you, Kate. What is it you do, and for how long have you been doing it?
Thanks for having me, Kevin. Essentially, Everywhere English is a workforce integration platform, and we help companies integrate non-native English speakers or multilingual teams in companies. And we do it specifically through industry-specific language training, culture, and translation.
Fantastic. Okay. And how long have you been doing this?
We launched in 2022,
Okay.
so we're now in our third year, particularly in the manufacturing and logistics industry, and clients across Ireland, UK, Spain, and most recently our first US client, which is very exciting.
Oh, right. Okay. And so the US client, I mean, there's somebody's coming in who doesn't speak, well, American, I suppose.
Essentially, an American English, yeah, exactly. So they're a pharmaceutical company, and they produce essentially Panadol and Advil and all those things. And it's Latin Americans or people who've been brought in from abroad. And what we're doing with them is helping them to kind of really polish their English. So they do have a level of English, but it's about getting to that professional level.
Great. Fantastic. So you've been growing since 2022, as you mentioned there. What do you attribute your growth to?
I think two things definitely. One being obsession with your customers, customer obsession. I think it's number one, and it's really important. We've literally built this whole business and this whole platform on entirely on client feedback. We started Everywhere English in 2022 as a service, just to get proof of concept, validate the idea. But then we generated some cash flow, which allowed us to launch an MVP completely built on customer feedback. So that's always been really, really important to us that we're building something that they actually need, because we can all go off on these tangents thinking we know what the solution is without actually knowing what the solution is. So even with the steady revenue now, we are still very much customer obsessed. It's mandatory for us and for all our team to stay very in close contact with all our customers. We have monthly check-ins with them, no matter how long they've been with us, just to keep asking, how's it going? How's the problem that we're solving? Always looking for data, always looking for not more problems essentially, but always looking for helping the business run as efficiently as possible. And
And
we also have on the platform itself, we have a reporting dashboard where employers can actually log in and look at the kind of the real life benefits of Everywhere English, and they can also see a return on their investment. So it keeps everything transparent, but again, keeping very close and always listening. We never stop listening to our customers, and I think that's definitely number one. And two, very quickly, I think consistency plays a big part in growth. Um, I work with my sister and co-founder, which is, in my opinion, a really good thing. But and we always say to each other, we just have to be consistent and show up every single day. Um, there's days there where you feel like, what the hell am I doing? And there's days where you're loving it. But it's just show up, be consistent, show up every day, and you'll get there. That's, I think, is number two for me.
fantastic. Yeah, no, I can agree. Now, you mentioned it was MVP for our
Yeah.
viewers. What does that stand for?
It's a minimum viable product. So essentially it would be the first version of our platform. So a very basic version of what we want, and then obviously in time, then we keep reiterating the product. I suppose changing it to our customers' needs. And like that timing as well. Things change, technology changes. So you kind of have to really stay on top of that. AI integration. I mean, oh my God, every business has had to kind of keep up with that trend. So things like that, just staying on top of those things and keep reiterating the product.
Fantastic. So minimum viable product, is it?
Minimum viable product. Yeah.
Okay, you work from there. Okay, fantastic. I love it. Love all that. And the, this, as you say, obsession with customers.
Yep.
I'd love to have all my clients to have that obsession. It's the key to the whole thing. So I couldn't agree with you more. If you were to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
Good question. Uh, a couple of things, I would say.
Hmm.
Like us all, we live and we learn, but probably the one that we hit us hard the most, I would say, and I think this goes for a lot of businesses, and I think a lot of people do this, especially when it's your first business. I think going into a second business, you'd be a lot more educated, of course, but not having a specific enough focus. I suppose at the beginning of the business, when you think about it, our business in general is helping non-native English speakers.
Mm.
Essentially, that's the whole world, right? So we have a massive, we could cater to anyone, right? But you can't build a business thinking you're going to target the whole world. But essentially, we at the start of our business, we did go in saying, look, sure, whatever comes our way, which was an absolutely wrong approach. If we were to start again, we would really work on that customer discovery part, spend a bit of time figuring out who has the most problem. For example, is it manufacturing? Is it hospitality? Is it what industry? And really then go hard on that industry because we spent, I suppose, a lot of money on marketing and Google ad spend, blogs, outsourcing third-party companies. We threw a lot of it out the window, if I'm being honest, because we didn't know who we were targeting. We just said, oh, we just want business to come. But you're not, if everyone's marketing, the internet is a very busy place. So you do really have to get really laser focused on what industry you're going for, what market you're going for, and down to how many employees the company should have, really, really specific stuff. So to give you a kind of real life example of that, when we were doing our customer discovery and everything along those lines, we found that the issue of multilingual workforces and is huge in hospitality.
Yep.
Massive, massive problem there, right? Lots of hotels, restaurants that need this service, right? And need this solution. And we had we had so many sales meetings. And at the end of the day, we figured out that the hospitality didn't have the budget for it, especially nowadays. Learning and development isn't their number one priority. So we spent a lot of time going down the hospitality route, which essentially led us nowhere. No, we learned. It never leads you nowhere. You do learn. But we found then the manufacturing and logistics industry have the exact same problem, but they have the budget. So that's where we are focused now. Manufacturing companies or logistics, essentially factory floors, if that's what you can imagine, with companies of about 500 employees and upwards with about a 25% non-native employee base. So it's really getting to that laser focus. And when we know our money's going to a good place now, when we're putting a Google ad or spending money on marketing or whatever it is.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Mm.
Love it. And I think you kind of covered this, but what have your biggest learnings been as an employer since you began in business?
Um, as an employer, thinking about our team, I think sometimes I think when you begin, we're quite a young company. When you begin, you almost have this imposter syndrome. You know, you feel like you kind of want to be everybody's friend, and you don't want to be too strict or too professional because it feels strange because you're thinking, oh God, we're at the very beginning of this. And it feels strange to be kind of acting like you have a company of 100 employees, But I think if I had gone back, I would have structured it and not try to be everybody's friends. And it isn't being, I personally believe being a good employer is not about being liked, it's about being clear and doing what's good for the business, you know. And I think at the end of the day, people want structure. They want to know what a proper working environment looks like. So a little bit of imposter syndrome can kick in at the beginning. And if I was to go back, I think I would have the mindset as, start as you mean to go on. If this is what we're going to be doing 5 years, do it now.
Okay. Very good. And we'll touch on that in a minute as well. Going back to the other one that interests a lot of business owners, or we get interesting answers. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of the biz of running a business?
Yeah, this is a good one because it's something again, myself and my sister are co-founders, but it's something that we're quite passionate about,
Hmm.
definitely. Long story short, we used to work in previous language startups, so we do know the kind of not stress, but I mean the ups and downs that come with starting a new business. Are you going to make revenue for next month? Do we have to let someone go? All these kind of challenges that come running with a new business. So for us, we've had that kind of, we understand trying to find the balance and we understand it for a long time, even before Everywhere English. But to be honest, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that for me, I don't think there's a thing of balance. I kind of prefer to look at it and approach it as a rhythm, if that makes any sense. It's a strange one, but I think in our line of work, there's weeks where you could be working 12-hour days, 13 hours days. There's deadlines, you're working late nights, big pushes, major deadlines. And when that happens, you just have to go with it and take it and run with it. And personally, then I feel you have the energy for it, you know. But we've also learned in times where things are a little bit quieter to take the time and not panic that it's not that busy because that's what you're used to, you know. As a startup, it's kind of easy to think, and as a business owner, shouldn't we be doing more when times are a little bit more quiet? So for me, it's about treating those moments as what they are: recharge, reconnect, get your head back in focus, and then take the big weeks as they come. So balance, I don't know what I use that word. Maybe it's more for me understanding a rhythm, if that makes
Really
any sense at
interesting.
all.
Interesting point. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting one. Particularly in the startup phase as well.
Yeah,
Before, well, as you say, you're discovering your market, you're discovering the people you need. There's a whole bunch of things that
you know.
you're on a, as they call it, a steep learning curve. Very good. So going back to the employees, what qualities do you look for in employees or team members, and how do you foster positive and productive work environment?
Hmm. Being completely honest, when I look at a CV initially, before the person is even hired, yes, qualifications and education is important, absolutely. But for me, when I'm scanning a CV, I'm looking for somebody, for an example of real life grit, you know, somebody who can think on their feet, somebody who doesn't need, essentially somebody who's an entrepreneur at heart that doesn't know it yet. They're the kind of people you want in your business. You don't want the kind of people who are just clocking in and clocking out. You want them to care. You want them to be invested in the business. Um, so for me, the two biggest qualities definitely would be curiosity and accountability.
Right.
Um, yeah, an entrepreneur in the making. You
Entrepreneur.
know, eventually they might go and leave you to start a new business, but I think the value that you get with these employees at the time that they're in the company is going to be 5 times, 10 times more than, say, a person who isn't an entrepreneur in the making. So they're the kind of people I want on my team.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe just to round off, what are some common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you address them?
Um, I think a common misconception is when people believe if the product is good and there's a real problem, that the business will work. You know, you often hear people saying, you know, if there's really a problem there, it'll work anyway. Or if there's a really a demand for this solution, it's going to work. But personally, I think execution is everything. I think if there's a problem there, and I think if there's a demand there, but you're not putting the work in, or you're not putting the effort in, or you're not executing correctly, I still don't think there's going to be a thriving business there. So I think a lot of people think if it's an excellent idea and an excellent product, and it could very well be, it absolutely could be, but if you're not executing correctly, I think that plays a big part. So execution, definitely. I think it beats idea every time. Uh, you have to get comfortable with failing, learning, testing, and then doing that on repeat, you know. And another big one, a misconception is I think a lot of people think growth is kind of, people look at growth as linear. And this is probably a very common answer, but it's very true. And it has to be said, you know, growth isn't linear. It's messy. It's some months are amazing. Another months you're questioning everything. So just a lot of people don't tell you that, you know, it is up and down, and growth is still growth. I saw an amazing graph the other day, and they were like, if you look at a growth chart from day to day, but then if you look at from year to year, in the year to year one, it's going to be linear, but the day to day one will be all over the place. So it's kind of about looking at the bigger picture in terms of growth and not getting disheartened when the days aren't as good as the good ones. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Kate,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure talking to you today. There's some great stuff in there for our viewers to learn from, and really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us today.
Not at all. Thanks a million, Kevin.